Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Dill. Another Sunday afternoon and another fresh batch of the AP Poll Top 25. Now, we got, in my opinion, two different things going on. Number one, a few statements that were made. Some teams that I thought might have been frauds that made some statements on Saturday. Dill, we still got a couple of frauds to weed out of the top 25 as well. Going to get into both sides of it before we do, and as always, and what makes this episode the best, everybody's got a little bit of a different take. Let it rip in the comment section. The teams that are ranked too high, the teams that are ranked too low. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, last week's fraud alert, was LSU. Certainly came to fruition on Saturday night. I'm going to ask you this right off the bat. What was the biggest statement that was made on Saturday?
I think Vanderbilt to me. I think, again, like that offense is just tough to deal with. I think we all know that it's really creative. Diego Pavia runs it very masterfully. Sneaky, their wide receivers and ours at tight end, they make a lot of plays.
I'm so salty as a Michigan fan. I'm watching like all that talent in the wide receiver room at Vanderbilt. I'm like, can we get one of those cats on this Michigan roster? They are.
The story was not the offense. I know the offense is pretty good. That defense came to play. And I know Missouri's passing attack has struggled for a good chunk of this year. It doesn't feel like when they play good teams, they've been on for the most part. But against that run that I thought was going to be a real problem, I think Vanderbilt, to me, that defense showed that, they can be pretty much competitive with anyone. And that gives them a chance to be like, not just like a pesky, like Vanderbilt's a fun team, like Alabama needs to take note or Georgia needs to take note when they play them. That defensive performance makes me think they have a legitimate shot to be like competitive.
Different kind of bodies on the defensive side of the football. Like, go back to last year, that offense was putting up points, but that defense really struggled against some of the best programs in the conference. Massive shout out to Clark Lee, because there is a lot of player development that's going on. Massive shout out to Vanderbilt general manager Barton Simmons, who is consistently betting on traits. Hey, give us the good athletes, we'll make them good football players. All of a sudden, you're looking up at Vandy and saying that they have guys that physically can bang at the top end of this conference. That's something Vanderbilt has never really been able to say. I mean, Dill, tackling Ahmad Hardy the way they did. Now, not many teams have done it very well. Vanderbilt did it very, very well Saturday afternoon. We were both a little skeptical about how real Vanderbilt is.
Now it's really tough to argue again. And I know they've been pesky and they've been fun, but like now it does feel a little bit different. Like you pair up what Diego Pavia and that offense can do with a defense that, again, I'm not saying it's like the shutdown best unit in the country kind of defense, but a really like good quality SEC defense. Vanderbilt's a problem for everybody now.
And how about this competitive character, right? I know that sounds fugazi, right? It sounds a little fugazi. I get it. This matters in the SEC. Like, it's one-score games everywhere you look. What team do you trust more? And what coaching staff do you trust more to win games in the fourth quarter? I'll tell you this much. There ain't many teams over Vandy that I'm taking when it comes to making the plays when the moment's the biggest. I'll give you another SEC team that I had on potential fraud alert. They are no longer in that category. Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. They go on the road. They do a very solid job in pass protection against a dominant Oklahoma front seven. Trinidad Chambliss, this ain't no Division II Cinderella story no more. He is one of the better quarterbacks in this conference, making NFL caliber throws. Here's the other thing I love about Ole Miss still. I mean, he's a guy that in these kind of games, when you go on the road to Norman, Oklahoma, and you're playing a Brent Venables defense, you need a quarterback that's a difference maker. Ain't going to be perfect. They're going to be muddy pockets. You're going to have to get yourself out of trouble. I mean, Trinidad Chambliss has that it factor that not a lot of other quarterbacks have, especially in this conference. Still, quite frankly, like Trinidad at Ole Miss, Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt, they're not going to go top 10 in the NFL draft. But in terms of guys that can make things happen, there ain't many quarterbacks I trust more, and a really solid performance from the Ole Miss defense as well, which needed a bounce back from what we
and
saw.
again, I don't think that was the offense that tests this Ole Miss defense, because I think we know like a team that can really just commit to the run and kind of hit on them pretty much all game. That's going to be a problem because they are thin in that defensive tackle, and I don't think they have the same type of impact players. But again, guys like Will Eckel, Xavier Harris, they're stepping up, playing some good football. Again, it was like that Georgia game where Georgia just could commit to it and stick with it, and it felt like you kind of wear them down a little bit. That's not really Oklahoma, obviously. That's not their rushing attack. But Ole Miss, like what they're doing is playing at a very consistently high level. They don't have the ceiling from that 2024 year, but they are at a much more consistent high level this year, and that makes them dangerous.
And shoot, man, that matters because guess what? We haven't seen a lot of in this year.
Like we haven't teams playing that way right now.
Yeah, haven't seen a ton of consistency from these college football teams. Ole Miss kind of giving you that, and they showed you they can put points up on any defense in the country. You will not see a bigger test this year than on the road in Norman, Oklahoma. They put up points. They moved the football. We're moving the chains on some massive third down plays. I am stock up on Ole Miss. All right, Dale, frauds. And then we'll get into the rest of these teams. Biggest fraud that you see in the top 25. I have a feeling in terms of what team you're going to go with, but I'll give you the T-box here.
Well, Georgia Tech's the team that's most overrated. I mean, they are not better than Vanderbilt. They're not better than Miami, not better than Notre Dame. Georgia Tech's honestly been in multiple games against very weak teams that they probably should have lost, and they got them out. And again, competitive character, they certainly have that. They don't have really the ability, in my eyes, to compete with these big dogs. I think way too many games, it feels like they've just been on the right side of luck. And again, that's certainly not totally probably fair to Virginia or Georgia Tech, I should say. But I'm not.
I don't think it's unfair, though. I don't think it's unfair in terms of like game dominance. And this is like, I don't got no numbers to back this up. I could probably find you some numbers to back it up, but this is more just from the gut, from the eyeballs.
I like watch the Wake Forest game. I watched the Duke game. I don't get the sense Georgia Tech's a whole lot better than either.
I'll give you another one. BYU at 11. Like they got outgained against Iowa State, and that's an Iowa State team that's dealing with a lot of injuries, man. They same story that we saw with BYU. Excuse me. BYU last year. Like they were 4-0 in the turnover margin, man. Like, again, I'm not going to knock BYU for forcing turnovers. Do I think they're the 11th best team in the – like, I'll tell you this, BYU, Notre Dame, I'm taking Notre Dame by 2 touchdowns, maybe even more. That's kind of where I sit with BYU and Notre Dame. Now,
I'll give you one more potential fraud, and that's probably Georgia. Like, I don't really see them as the 5th best team in the country. And again, I think they have a better case. Like, they got that win against Ole Miss, but I don't know. Watching that game, it doesn't totally feel like Georgia was necessarily the better team. Didn't necessarily feel like they were the better team against Tennessee. To me, Georgia, like, there is a very big issue on that defense. They are really weak in that front 7. And that's not even just like relative to what Georgia's been. That's kind of like, absolutely speaking, I think they're like a middle to like maybe bottom end of the SEC right now with their front 7. It's tough to me.
Yeah, and
Bill, here, 5 for me.
Here's I'm not disagreeing with that. And it's not like I'm getting up here like BYU's undefeated, Georgia Tech's undefeated, Georgia has 1 loss against Alabama. It's not like I'm getting up here and saying they shouldn't be ranked where they are. It's like, do I think Georgia's the 5th best team in the country? Not sure. Now, I will say this, that Georgia offense showing what they did against Ole Miss, that does excite me in terms of what they can do running the football and playing that brand of football. But I'm kind of with you.
You just give up a lot of points on defense, though, if we're being honest.
Yeah. All right. I'll ask you once again. Texas A&M, Indiana. And, dude, the thing with Indiana that I love is just
their
consistent dominance, man, right? Consistent dominance. Indiana, Texas A&M, with you, what you saw from Texas A&M on the road against LSU, which was a dominant performance, like outside of like an 8-minute period in the second quarter where they gave up a blocked field goal, Marcel Reed threw 2 picks. That was a dominant.
But I get the point, obviously. Yeah, that was a bad second quarter. Not a blocked field goal.
Block punt. Excuse me. Yeah, yes, you're right. But it was like,
that was a really bad second quarter. Again, I'm not going to get up here. Those 3 teams to me are all playing so well right now. Yeah. It's really hard to just like Indiana. Like, you talk about consistency and just beating this out of the teams you should beat up, getting that big win against Oregon. I do think A&M's the better team, but I'm just not going to get on the soapbox and do it. It's like,
so with what you saw, I guess this is where I want to go. With what you saw from Texas A&M on the road against LSU, and then what you saw with Alabama on the road against South Carolina, is there a gap getting created? Maybe is that gap a little wider than you thought between Texas A&M at 3 and Alabama number 4?
I honestly don't think so. Like, I don't think it's like this chasm. I know that those 3 teams right now are playing the most consistent football. I don't know that like the sport in general has these like big chasms maybe that they used to be. Like back in the day, there was always those Clemson, Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, and then it felt like there was a mile between everyone else. I'm not convinced that's the case right now, just generally speaking.
I think there is
there's 3 teams that are playing at a much more consistent level.
Yes, that's the best way I would put it, right? Like the teams that I trust the most are the 3 best teams right now that we see in these rankings.
In fairness, I trust them a good deal more, but again, I don't know that this gap is as big as it used to be. That's what
agreed. Here is the concern. This is why I think that gap got a little. Don't roll your eyes at me. I saw that. This is why the gap got a little wider. What was the big concern about Alabama? Can you consistently win? But the run game to me has always been kind of fits and starts, right? And like we know they want to throw the football. My concern was if you can't really run the football and you want to go on the road and win in this conference, can you consistently do it? I know you got a great quarterback and I know you got great wide receivers. The lack of the run game was a problem. Like South Carolina was just pinning the ears back and getting after Ty Simpson, and that was as uncomfortable as Ty Simpson has looked since what we saw from him on the road against Florida State. That lack of ability to run the football got Alabama in some trouble. Alabama's still a very good football team. That's worth taking note of, I believe, when you're trying to decipher some of the best teams across the country. Quick note on Oregon real quick. Bully ball, man. Like, I love it because it started pouring rain in Eugene, Oregon. And so you couldn't even throw the foot. Will Stein, you didn't even have a choice. You had to get bully ball. You saw them go to it, and they started running the football, man. This is an Oregon team that can run the football against anybody in the country. That makes them dangerous. Here's my next question for you. Sorry, I'm just peppering you with questions right now. Most underrated team that you see in these rankings?
Probably Louisville, honestly. I think Louisville is really good. I love the way that front 7 can play. That offense, to me, really dynamic. I don't know. I feel like they're inching up on that top 10 level. I think that's a really good Louisville football team.
Yeah, I still am taking Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame power ranked. My gut, I put them in the top.
But how far up can you bump? I get there.
No. I'm just saying power ranks. No playoff rankings going involved. Notre Dame's going to have to accept the fact that they're not going to host a college football playoff game. You ain't going to crack that top 8, right? I don't think you can, at least. Well, I don't know. There could be a lot of chaos that unfolds. But get this team into the playoffs. I firmly believe they can bang with anybody in the country. Can I get your take on Oklahoma at 18?
It's where they belong now. I still think they're a very dangerous team. Very disappointed in John Mateer's last 2 games. I think his performances really weak in both of them, frankly. I thought his first half was okay maybe against Ole Miss. That second half I thought was disgusting.
My bigger concern is that offensive line is kind of reverting back to what it was last year, man. I mean, Ole Miss did not bring a lot of pressure. They gave up 17 quarterback hurries at Oklahoma. And you have 2 true freshmen starting, right? Mike Fasusi at left tackle, Ryan Foji at right tackle, and Ole Miss was rushing 3, dropping 8, and they were impacting John Mateer. Like, as much as I want to blame John Mateer, and I don't think he was great,
like we all knew he needed to be great if this Oklahoma team was going to be that, because that defense is still very legit. I'm just very concerned about, like, he's got to get back to that level. He's got to be really good, because otherwise, you're right. Oklahoma is not a good enough offense right now if he's playing at like a mediocre level.
That elevator difference maker.
He's got to be like a top 5 quarterback if they're going to be really good. No question about it.
I think that's probably fair, and he just hasn't really been that since the injury. I think that's probably fair to say. All right, here's my last question. I'm sorry I'm putting you on the spot a lot. Well, hey, I'll open up to you. Any other teams you want to highlight? Like Texas, I think 20, you're probably looking at a fraud there, right? Like the Texas offense continues to struggle, and that Texas defense, are we confident that's a top 5 defense in the country like we thought it was?
No, I don't think you're confident in anything right now that Texas is doing. It's a team that, like, you talk about game control. When they play teams that are not Sam Houston State or like those really like small mid-major schools, they're pretty much in dogfights every game if they're not losing.
So I mean, Dill, they got beat on the foot, and like they beat Kentucky and they beat Mississippi State, but they got outplayed.
They were beaten in both those games. Those teams just didn't close. Yes.
Yes. Right. That's a problem, man. Right. That's a problem. What team do you think can make a run at the playoffs that nobody's talking about?
Probably
I'll get USC at 23.
USC, like, again, I think they need to beat Oregon. I think there's like a level they can get to on offense where they can be very dangerous for any team. So USC is probably the team. Like, I don't know. I look at like a Missouri, a Texas, like those teams to me. Louisville, obviously, I said I think they're kind of in that range. So Louisville probably would have been my answer. USC has that elite characteristic, and they play pretty consistently elite, I'd say, on that side of the ball, that I'd be comfortable in a Big Ten where they only have one game left. I think they can make a run.
Yeah, the my only problem with USC is if Oregon just says, "Hey, we're just going to make you line up and stop the rushing," that is a very tough.
But Oregon right now doesn't feel like they always want to commit to that, which is a little frustrating at times.
I agree. I mean, Michigan's got a path to be 9-2 heading into Ohio State, and they play host to Ohio State. That'll get them into the playoffs. It's just a very inconsistent football team right now.
That's the difference, I feel like, with like a USC. Like, I know there's flaws in that team, and there are a characteristic that I don't think they can win a national championship with that defense as it stands right now. That offense can certainly get hot enough to be dangerous.
They'll have a chance to beat when you can score like USC can score, you'll have a chance to beat everybody in the country, right? All right. Miami at 10 is the last question I'll ask you. Buying back stock. Neither of us really sold our stock.
I think that's offensively low, personally. I think they're a top 5 team still in my eyes. It's a really good defense.
I'll say this: I think I would take Miami over Georgia on a neutral site right now.
I think like that's
no question.
That's not like a super hot take. You're saying that like Miami's some like dog water team. Miami, to me, a more complete team than Georgia right now. If we're just looking team to team,
man, that would be the college football playoff guys. That would be
sweet. So fun.
And I want it in Athens. I want Carson Beck to go to Athens. That would be
fun.
All right, we'll pause it there. You're starting to see we're starting to weed out the frauds. You're starting to figure out who the real good teams are. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.